It looks like I've done it again. Recently, I put out a video identifying the worst NFL franchise across every decade during the Super Bowl era, using each team's combined C-score. This channel's metric for evaluating every NFL team during this era across the decade in question. I was only mildly surprised by one of the results, that the Jacksonville Jaguars took the crown as the worst team during the 2010s over the Cleveland Browns. And, just like I did in my best 5-year stretch without a Super Bowl video, I made specific mention of it in this video. What did you think about all of this? Any surprises? I thought for sure that the Browns would take the 2010s, especially since Jacksonville did have that one very good season. But in the end, the Jags pulled it off, so to speak. C-score is a numbers-based metric, nothing more, nothing less, and I let it speak for itself. Yet, once again, this stirred up some controversy, even though it was clearly never my intent to be controversial. And of course, the comments came pouring in, wondering how it was even possible for anyone else to even be considered for the top spot over the Browns, let alone actually take it from them. And it's worth reiterating, I do love the comments, even and sometimes especially the ones who disagree. So it looks like it's time for another C-score examination.
Paging Dr. C-score, paging Dr. C-score, we have a 2-team autopsy that needs attending to. Thank you.
Dr. C-score is here. Without further ado, we have a battle of the not-so-Titans taking place here between the Cleveland Browns and the Jacksonville Jaguars of the 2010s. The Super Bowl that's so much better taken on in video form than on the actual football field. Thank you for joining us. We are ready to begin. Getting right into it is the major argument that everyone has put forth. The Browns had a worse record than the Jaguars during the 2010s. That is an undeniable fact, as we can see right here. Jacksonville went a combined 51-109, while Cleveland went 42-117-1. In the NFL, where tied games officially count as half a win and half a loss, that puts the Browns at 42.5 victories, 8.5 fewer than Jacksonville. Even at less than one fewer win per season, that does seem pretty substantial, right? An open and shut case. If you're not a first-time viewer to the channel, then you know I'm ready to offer more. Take an NFL team, any NFL team, and drop them down to the college ranks. They would dominate their competition without actually being a better team. There is a context to everything. Now, don't get it wrong, the Jaguars and the Browns were both very bad NFL teams during the 2010s, but how they performed requires a deeper understanding in order to contextualize their results. Let's start with point differential. We've got all of them listed here for all 10 seasons, and when we add them all up, yep, the Browns are still trailing, getting outscored in every season to varying degrees and checking in with a total of negative 961. Jacksonville did have their one very good season in 2017, and it's a damn good thing they did, because they checked in at minus 879. That makes the Jaguars, on point difference, 82 points better than the Browns, an average of just over 8 points per season, just over half a point per game. That is still meaningful though. We certainly don't look at two running backs the same when one of them averages more than half a yard per carry than the other one. But it does close the gap somewhat, taking these point differentials and applying them to Pythagorean wins, which is a widely accepted manner by which performance is gauged, gives us this. And then we add them all up, and the Jaguars do still hold the lead with just over 57 Pythagorean wins compared to the Browns' 54.21. The gap shrinks from 8.5 to less than 3. Now this is where the tables turn. We've got to look at strength of schedule. Here are the yearly listings from both teams as taken from Pro Football Reference, where a positive number means a harder than league average schedule, a negative number means an easier than league average schedule, and a 0.0, such as the Browns had in 2017, is a league average schedule. Beyond that 0, Cleveland has 3 negative scores and 6 positive scores. But some of these numbers, particularly in 2015, are well above 0. Jacksonville, on the other hand, has 7 negative scores, including 2 that go well beyond -2, and only 3 positive scores, with only one of those getting above 1. After we add them all up, it's clear to see that Cleveland's strength of schedule over the decade far surpasses Jacksonville's. Jacksonville sits at -0.64, while Cleveland headed completely in the opposite direction and then some, settling in at 0.68. In the season-by-season rankings, Cleveland has 4 top 10 finishes to Jacksonville's 1, and 3 bottom-half finishes to Jacksonville's 6. All told, for the 10-year period in question, the Jaguars played the 28th hardest schedule in the league. Only 4 teams had an easier road. The Browns, the 3rd hardest schedule in the league. Only 2 teams had it harder. This reflects in the division standings during the decade. 10-6 or worse won the AFC South 6 times. 10-6 was only good for the division title in the North twice. The North put out 7 wildcard teams, including 2 at 12-4. The South put out 4 with only one 11-5 team, and that was the 2012 Indianapolis Colts, whose fraudulence we have covered at length on this channel. What does all this mean? It means that Cleveland's accomplishments during the decade, while on the surface inferior to Jacksonville's, is actually more impressive. Not that much different than a 2-14 NFL team being better than a 12-0 college team. Yes, I do know this is not a perfect like-for-like example, but conceptually it is the same thing. If before the 2010 season, the NFL decided that the Browns and Jaguars would be swapping places, Jacksonville was now in the AFC North and played the exact same schedule as the Browns, and vice versa, with the Browns going to the AFC South, and nothing else changed, then it could be, and in reality would be expected, that the imaginary Browns would perform as well as or better than the real-life Jaguars, and that the imaginary Jaguars would perform as well as or worse than the real-life Browns. Let's go just a little deeper though. In our video about the lost ring Buffalo Bills, I introduced a concept that I fully admitted is lacking in any kind of real numerical correlation, but it does serve as a nice visual concept for defining the value of a win. We're going to take each of these teams' raw win total from each season and combine it with their strength of schedule number. The Browns won 5 games in 2010 and their strength of schedule was a 2.3, so their adjusted win total is now 7.3 as seen right here. Once we add all of these up, we get the Browns with 48.8 adjusted wins and Jacksonville with 44.6. And just like that, Cleveland is on top. This is seen even more dramatically if we do adjusted Pythagorean wins. The Browns shoot all the way up to 62.51, while Jacksonville lingers at 50.66. C-score has a very important tenet. A team's record is important, but it's not everything. An 11-5 team can rate higher than a 13-3 team or lower than a 9-7 team. Not all records are created equally. Circumstance, context, who you play, how you play against them, this all matters. If C-score had a single reason for existing, if it could accomplish one thing, it would be to provide a deeper meaning to results that we get from NFL games. A win is a win, and at the end of the day, it is the only metric that ever counts. And a team that wins every single game, or just the team that wins the season's last game, is the one that wins the trophy. That tells us that day's result. It doesn't always tell us the entire picture. An example of this is that the Jacksonville Jaguars of the 2010s won more games than the Cleveland Browns of the same decade, but Cleveland's overall performance, given the circumstance and context, was better. And we will now finalize that notion by looking at each of these teams' year-by-year C-score. 19 out of these 20 seasons are in the negative territory, with the only notable and obvious standout being that incredible season the Jaguars put out in 2017. Yet, that was not enough to turn the tide back in their favor. Cleveland manages 4 seasons in the single-digit negatives, while Jacksonville goes into double-digit negatives in every single season outside of 2017. The worst season on here is actually the 2012 Jaguars. Yes, worse than Cleveland's winless season, a win total that was more of a fluke than anything else. It's the Jaguars who made our list of the 10 worst 3-year runs in the Super Bowl era, with that terrible run from 2012 to 2014, while the Browns avoided that list entirely. In total now, the Browns C-score for the 2010s is minus 144.956, a terrible score without question. But Jacksonville, they did them one better. Actually, they did them almost 8 better, at minus 152.655. In this battle for the 2010's Super Bowl championship, the crown belongs to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Congratulations. Thank you so much for joining us today and for watching through to the end without clicking out while muttering to yourself about how much of an idiot I am. I mean, I am an idiot, but usually not where it involves football and numbers. Be sure to give the video a like and some shares, and if you wouldn't mind doing so, subscribe to the channel and ding that bell to receive notifications on all future videos. So I've got to ask, if you thought the Browns were easily the worst team of the 2010s before, do you still think that now? Or did I maybe change your mind? I'm not certainly out to convert anybody, but I would welcome anyone who wants to. Let me know what you think about this video or anything else that you may have on your mind. The comment section is your playground. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I hope you have an awesome day.